And we're back with Pro Wrestling Talk Radio, the show where fans rate and debate the hottest topics in the world of wrestling. Jay on the hosting panel with Manny, David, Brandon, and at this time, I'd like to welcome Charlie to the show.
Hello.
You've made a bit of news yourself because, of course, I released my video, the tragic end to Undertaker's WrestleMania streak, and you wrote up a column on PWF Empire, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, literary tragedy or just a tragedy, in response to my video. And after I read your column, I was feeling some type of way. I seriously was. And,
okay.
No, we're not doing that anymore.
But, just so you all know, full disclosure, after PWTR last week, you actually heard us say we were going to be watching the match after PWTR. We all watched the match, and it was so funny how Manny and we saw it. I was going along with every single movement in the match. Like, look at how that happened. Look at how this perfectly matches up to this Greek tragedy. They perfectly told the story. Manny and we get that. David, he kind of got it towards the end, but you can see where he is right now. He's like, yeah, what the fuck ever. Charlie, adamantly, throughout the entire thing, was like, fuck this shit. Now, Charlie, with your column, which I highly suggest that you guys read, where do you stand on this tragic end of the streak?
There was an attempt to tell the story, which was akin to a Greek tragedy. I emphasize the word attempt because, Manny, you made a point that said you've never seen them get somebody so emotionally invested in the outcome of a match. And I regretfully inform you that the match had nothing to do with it. That was the 21 years that the streak was. This was not some sort of unbelievable thing that was like a play from Shakespeare. It was a single act. It was a 3 count. It was the scene where Romeo and Juliet die. That was it. Jay says that people didn't want to accept the story. I think you have to see the story. People didn't care. People weren't sitting there saying, oh, I can see what they're doing here, and I'm just going to call it bullshit. People didn't watch the match. And I think that's a huge thing that goes against this being some sort of work of art, amazing, put-together, told story. They did not build it up. The match was good, but they tried so hard to disguise the fact that Brock Lesnar was going to win, which really didn't come off well because it just kind of suspended everybody's give a fuck until that 3 count hit. Nobody cared about the match. Nobody even really watched the match. Everybody was sort of mentally checked out of the match. And I don't see how you can sit there and now say because you forced yourself to watch the match again and find a story and pull it out of the match, that you can now go back and say, man, that was a work of art and they did it so well, because nobody cared. The first airing of the match, nobody cared, and there will be a gigantic portion of the audience that will never know of the story's existence. So I don't see how that turns into some sort of work of art. They did not build it up properly. Nobody cared about the match, and the fact that just because the story was there and they told it does not make the story something that you wanted to watch. You may not have been meant to want to watch it, but the difference is you were supposed to at least sit there and watch it and say to yourself, man, this is some BS. You just watched the finish. People tuned back in for the finish. This was not a full story. It was a 3 count.
Let me just say that I vehemently disagree with every single fucking thing that you said. You continue to harp on the reaction or non-reaction of the fans while the match was on. You act as if them not caring about the match invalidates what happened afterwards. Them not caring about the match was due to their own volition. It was due to them having these preconceived notions in their minds as to what to expect from the streak, what to expect from pro wrestling, and WWE proved them wrong.
I don't see the harm though in doing that story but having an engaged audience. I don't see why that would have been different.
Because they didn't want you to doubt The Undertaker for a second. They wanted you to believe that there was no chance of him losing this match. And that way, when it did happen, it sends the message and really sets the tone for WWE going forward that your heroes are not infallible, that they can be beaten, that anyone can be beaten on any given day, especially when you put a 49-year-old man up against a UFC champion.
So why is this the first time we're ever getting something like this, and this has never been done before? Because
Triple H is in charge of creative.
Why should stuff like that matter, though? Like I kept hearing people, WWE creative team is not that smart to do something like this, and just like you said, David, I highly doubt Brock Lesnar and the Undertaker would think of a story like that. Why does it matter the backstage?
Because this is so unlike. This is almost bordering on unnecessary. There's so many layers and stuff. Like a wrestling match, in my opinion, if the crowd doesn't get engaged, if you don't get a reaction in that match, you stunk the joint up. I really don't think that these guys are very old school. At least the Undertaker, he's going out there to get that reaction, man.
Why
I think that's the only thing he cares.
Separate the match from the ending?
What do you mean?
Because you're talking about getting a reaction. They sure as hell got one. They got one out of you.
Yeah, after like 20 minutes.
Okay.
I mean,
and I'm pretty sure that feeling that you had within those 3 seconds, it was equivalent to a feeling, probably even more than what you would have gotten in 20 minutes. Even if you cared about that match and you were sitting there, oh yeah, this was amazing. The Undertaker streak ending. I want to know from you right now, what was your reaction after the streak ended?
Honestly, I said this before. I said I really hope Lesnar just ends this match and ends this guy's career because this match blows.
And you want to know, but that wasn't answering the question. But I'm glad that you brought that up because
that was my answer. That's literally what I said.
No, but that was your reaction to the match before the ending. But I'm glad that you brought that up because I was actually reading, like I said, I was reading Aristotle Poetics, and one of the points that he specifically brought up was the fall of a tragic hero. It incites pity from the people watching, and you pretty much just outlined that right there. You pitied the Undertaker to the point where you said that he should have lost.
No, I pitied Mark Calloway because that match blew.
There you go. Once again, not being a fan. You're not looking at the Undertaker. You're looking at Mark Calloway.
This goes beyond being. I don't know how to. I don't think I'm ever going to convince you to this, but I don't think there's ever been any time in professional wrestling history where anybody went out there and said, we're going to make a Picasso-type match and going into themes. And this is just a case of people just going way too deep into something that really, it never had that intention. Perhaps, maybe it was, but they probably. I just do not see them having that intention to do that. I don't want to say. You want to know what I really want to think? You really want to know what I think? I do not. Forgive me for saying this. I get the Undertaker is a legend and all that. Brock Lesnar, cool guy. I don't think anybody was that intelligent enough to come up with something like that.
See, why does a standard have to be established for you to accept this? You're saying, it hasn't happened before, so I don't believe it's going to happen in this case.
Well, I mean, I've never been struck by lightning when I walked outside, so why would it happen when I go outside tomorrow? I mean, like...
Does that mean that you'll never be struck by lightning, though?
I mean, true, but it's very unlikely.
But still possible.
But by, like, 0.1%.
But
if that.
Still possible.
So, David, your biggest gripe with the match is that you don't believe that anyone's smart enough to have come up with the idea for it?
No, that's just my reaction to this debate. My biggest gripe with the match was that I didn't get it in the first time. I was just bored. I think that with a wrestling match, if you don't get that person within the first match, I mean, if you don't get them on their first viewing, you kind of stunk the joint out. Like, nobody cares, literally.
See, but you're looking at it as a wrestling match. This is more than just a wrestling. This is a story that played out over the course of several days, and we were all characters that contributed to the story.
Yes, that's it. But I do want to say thank you for the compliment, though. You said nobody is smart enough to come up with something like this, so and I came up with it, so thank you. I would love to take credit, but honestly, this isn't me like, oh, let me create a story to give WWE an excuse for this bullshit. That's what I saw. It is what I saw.
I cannot wait until the interview with Austin where Undertaker just says, yeah, I got a concussion and Brock took over. I cannot wait.
Who's to say that he's going to get on there and, like, reveal the whole fucking plot anyway? Like, is that what this is seriously hinging on? Undertaker's words?
I mean, this is like... I don't know if I want to do another obscure reference, because I know Manny hates this kind of stuff. But when you dig too deep for something inside of a piece of entertainment, you tend to find something that the artist never intended to put in there.
That doesn't mean anything. That happens in literature all the time.
Well, it can be very dangerous.
But that doesn't mean that the moment doesn't have that, same level of value, though. Just because the artist didn't intend to put something in there doesn't mean that it's not there.
It's like when they did the trial with Judas Priest, and everybody was saying that if you play the song backwards, it says this. And if you play it backwards, you'll hear them saying to worship the devil and stuff like that. That did not... You have to really dig deep for that.
But it's still there. My mind is like blown. It's cool.
You know what?
My mind was blown too, and
You know what? I'm going to leave it like this. If I want to be challenged, I'm going to watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. When I watch a wrestling match, I just want to have fun. That's all I'm going for.
And like I said, you're basing this entire situation off of your preconceived notions of what wrestling is. You, the artiste, you, the author, you can look at all of these different forms of entertainment, and you can appreciate comic books. You can appreciate books themselves. You can appreciate movies. You can appreciate music. But for some reason, wrestling has to be lowbrow. It can't aspire to be anything greater than that. Honestly, what you were talking about earlier, when you were like, oh, they were risky making this move. I think that's basically you saying, and I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me I'm wrong, but the audience isn't smart enough to pick it up. So we're wrestling fans are traditionally known as a bunch of mouth breathers, knuckle draggers. So WWE should have never tried to do something like this because they would have been wasting their time because nobody got it.
Yeah, David, way to bury the WWE universe.
Jesus Christ! Well, when you put it like that, hey, at least I'm not the one that said it. All right, you guys said it. Hey, I didn't say anything.
You didn't deny it either, though.
We'll never know. The world may never know. The commercial with the Tootsie Roll. How many licks did it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? The world may never know.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and bring a close to this topic. Anybody have any last thoughts?
I mean, I wouldn't ask someone. I wouldn't bring to a kindergarten class. What's another a Godfather? And try to
so you're comparing the WWE universe to a kindergarten class now?
I mean, when you look at the Facebook page, hey.
I mean, damn.
Look at the WWE Facebook page.
You need one of Triple H's shovels?